I'm happy to be here with you to introduce you to the accounting department here, or the undergraduate program here. If you have questions as I'm going, just go ahead and ask them right then. I'll take questions afterwards too, but I'm happy to stop at any point and take them. So just raise your hand and say, stop, I don't understand what you're saying, or something like that. We passed out cards too. These are cards that just summarize the department, some of the opportunities, some of the courses and stats on our seniors. So we pass these, we have these in our office. So I thought I'd go ahead and pass them out. We update those each year as new rankings come out and new stats come out. So what I want to talk about today is just what our mission is, a little bit about our rankings, why you would study accountancy as opposed to anything else in the university, the career opportunities of placement, and then a little bit about our curriculum, and I'll try to illustrate our curriculum with an example. And then you may or may not have heard about this 150-hour requirement, so I just wanted to explain what that is. Sometimes people think that accounting is a 5-year degree like architecture, but that's not really what's going on here. And so I just wanted to say a couple things about that. Okay, the mission that we have is to offer a high-quality program that educates a national student body for careers in professional accounting, for careers that involve accounting, and for graduate study. Now, the key thing that I want to focus on there is the national student body. And so we have recruiters that will come on campus and interview you for all across the country, not just in Chicago or not just Indianapolis or something like that. When the people come in to recruit, they're recruiting for all over the country. So especially like the big 4 firms, the big accounting firms, they'll bring in recruiters from New York, they'll bring in recruiters from San Francisco, and because of the quality of the students here, they're willing to have you go to work in San Francisco office instead of maybe some people from the local schools around that area, but it's because of the reputation of the people that have gone ahead of you. And then the other thing is the way we look at the accounting degree, it's really a foundation for work in business for the next 50 years. It's hard for you to think that you'll be working for the next 50 years, but chances are a lot of you will live to be 100, so you have to do something, for the next 70 years or so, or I guess 80 years. So, working would be a large part of that. So what we're aiming at are some foundational skills that you need, not just memorizing rules and not just, memorization in general. And it's also not teaching you every rule that you could learn about accounting. It's trying to give you a base and understanding what the issue is, and then given the issue, how would we account for it in this situation? And it might change if we're dealing with tax guidance as opposed to reports that a firm would issue if they're wanting a loan. Okay? And so that's kind of our approach. It fits in well with the rest of the university, that we're trying to get you to understand the issues and then move forward throughout your life. So get you to think about the issue, not just memorize. Okay? And then consistent with that, we have some general skills. Communication, critical thinking, problem solving, ethics. Probably what the accounting does more than anything is critical thinking and problem solving. And then we also will have a lot of teamwork. A lot of our classes, almost all our classes, have group work to get you used to working in teams, because typically if you're in accounting, you're going to be working in a team. But we work on these general skills, not just specific accounting skills. And then within accounting, we're looking at measurement. So what is revenue, what is income, what is expense? When you get in different areas, it gets more complex. So what would be the fair value of a derivative, if you've heard of those types of things? Then measurement becomes harder. Analysis, again, just trying to figure out what facts are important. So a lot of what accounting is figuring out what data is relevant, what's irrelevant, and then trying to focus on the particular issue. So the analysis could come in analyzing a firm's financial statements that they would give to the public, or it could be analyzing a tax situation and figuring out what should go on someone's tax return. And then finally, validation. Typically, you think of that as auditing. So auditing is where an outside third party comes in and attests to what the firm has provided. So without auditing, a firm could say anything they wanted to, and it may be years before you find out that they lied. So that when you think about the internet and when a news story comes out or anything, you have an initial release, but you don't know whether it's true or not, or that has any facts or not. Well, what validation is you have a third party come in and actually say this in fact happened. And that's what auditors do. And that's what a lot of people, a lot of students do when they first get out of University of Notre Dame, will do in the accounting profession. So they've got to understand the underlying accounting, and then their first job is to go out and make sure that the clients have done it right. So like you'd have Price Waterhouse people would go out and spend time at IBM to make sure that their financial statements are accurate. Okay? Rankings, when the Business Week rankings came out last year, you know that Mendoza was ranked #1 as a college, but also part of that ranking, the accountancy program was ranked first also. And we're typically very high in those rankings. This public accounting report is a survey that professors all around the country fill out. And so we've been ranked 4th consistently for the last several years. The Msa Program, which is a 1-year program that some students from our undergraduate program go to, that's also ranked quite high. Okay? And the reason for the rankings, it's #1, the students. You know, we have great students come in, and so it's hard to mess you up. But you know, that's the key thing, that we get great students coming in. But then we also have great curriculum, great professors, great placement, great career center. So all of those play into or have a part in these rankings. I've already alluded to some of this. Why ND Accountancy? You know, it's a great foundation. The way I describe accounting, or describe accounting a lot more now, is that accounting is essentially a foreign language with a heavy dose of algebra. Okay, so the key thing is understanding what the relationships are between the terms. And really, to do well in business, you've got to understand the language. Okay, so there's a lot of terminology, but in that terminology comes with relationships, and that's what I'm talking about with a heavy dose of algebra. It really focuses on how you approach problems, not just accounting problems, but any problem. So you're always trying to capture what's the relevant information here, what can I discard, and then you try to make the best decision with what you consider as relevant. Flexible lifestyle, the firms that will recruit you here, and just the nature of accounting allows you to make a choice on work-life balance. And like the Big Four firms and other firms will emphasize trying to have you realize your potential at work, but then also not have to sacrifice your family. Just mention a couple other things here. There's a lot of things changing in accounting. We may go to IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards, at some point. At least at the undergraduate level, there's a lot of overlap between what US GAAP is and what IFRS would be. But once you get out, anytime there's a lot of change, it puts you on par with people that have been practicing for 20, 30 years. So that's a great time to advance. And then also, we're still trying to figure out the economic crisis. That's going to bring on more regulation. Anytime you have more regulation, it's more demand for accountants. And I think more interesting work too, trying to figure out what's the best way to measure issues or measure transactions. We have great placement rates in graduate school and also job. I already mentioned it's a national recruiting priority, and I also mentioned that we have top faculty. Career opportunities, I know that most of you are aware of public accounting. That's because that's where a lot of people start, but most people will do something else after 5 years or so. They won't stay in public accounting forever. But it's a great training ground. You see a lot of different industries. You see a lot of different businesses. You learn a lot about time management, about dealing with other people, working in teams, and so on. I've already described auditing and tax a little bit. Transaction services would be work that has to be done around mergers and acquisitions, where you would value companies. There could be bankruptcy work that might be part of transaction services. So this is almost more like a consulting engagement. Forensic accounting, that's typically where there's fraud been uncovered. So you have to go in and actually figure out what the fraud was, or you think there might be fraud, and so you do special procedures to try to uncover it. Other places, though, where people eventually go, or sometimes they go right out of school too. They would go immediately for corporations working in the treasury function or the controller function. Sometimes there might be a management training program that you go in, so you see a lot of different parts of the companies. So you might go to work for GE right away or Procter & Gamble, but those large firms need a lot of accountants. Consulting, maybe an Accenture, or say the big four firms also have consulting branches, so even if it's in a public accounting firm, you may be doing more consulting work, like process improvement or installation of systems. Law, a lot of accountants end up becoming lawyers. So again, with our more general degree, it's a great foundation just for critical thinking, and our students do well in law school. And finally, academics, a lot of people, not that many, but some people that start out in public accounting will end up becoming professors. Now, we've got a huge shortage in accounting professors right now. The average age is around 55 or 56. So that creates a lot of opportunity for new people, because there are, and this is true here at Notre Dame, a lot of people are set to retire in the next 5 or 10 years. So again, that creates a lot of opportunity for new people. And being a professor is, I think it's an ideal job. At least it's an ideal job for me. And what's different about a PhD program is they actually pay you to be in school. They pay you for about 4 or 5 years. That's how long it takes to get your degree. At the top schools, they'll pay you about $30,000 or $40,000 to go to school, plus waive your tuition. And then if you go to a top school coming out, you'll be paid like more than $200,000, somewhere around there. So it's not like you're going to school and you have to give up complete income. I mean, it's a decent lifestyle, but you end up having to be in a PhD program for 5 years, and so you're giving something up. Here are some examples of career opportunities, some titles. CFO at Nike. So again, you might start out as accounting. These are what some of our students are doing. So because their accounting background and then additional degrees, they're doing more of a function in finance. You have other people in internal audit. You have leadership positions in the big four firms. You have leadership positions in corporations. We have people here at Notre Dame in the controller's office. You have people in Chicago charities. You know, like any business, whether it's for-profit or not-for-profit, needs accountants, and good accountants that have been trained not only in the rules or the guidance, but also professionalism and ethics. And then, like I said, we have a law professor teaching in a law school that has an accounting undergrad, and then we have Notre Dame professors or undergraduates that are professors here also. Sample compensation, if you're working for a corporation, they could be much higher than this. These are leadership positions as you move up. So the salaries, when you first get out of here, it's around $55,000, and I have, with 150 hours and CPA exam ready, so you're ready to sit for the CPA exam. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. The manager is someone that's going to be in public accounting for 4 or 5 years. That would be like $100,000. And I have the stat underneath there. Approximately half the graduates starting in the Big Four firms stay at least 5 years. So I think at one time the turnover was a lot higher than that. Now the turnover isn't that bad at all. And the longer you stay, the more you'll make when you go to a better job. So the longer you can stay in public accounting, just the more you learn, the more you're managing, and so on. New partner, 11 to 13 years out, $350, and then an average partner, someone's been there for a long time, $750. So you don't want to go just for money, but it's also not like you're going to be a pauper. I think that some people think of accounting still as Bob Cratchit from Charles Dickens' Scrooge. That's what an accountant is. You sit on a stool and you don't make anything. You have to ask for coal. Or the other stereotype of an accountant is, I can't remember what his name is, Lewis, I think, from Ghostbusters. He has the parties and he invites his clients instead of his friends, that way he can write it off. So, that's kind of the stereotype of accountants, but the accountants that move up into the firms, either the public accounting firms or in the corporations, they're very dynamic people, very successful, very smart people, and they get paid for that. Obviously, if a partner is going to be a leader of their firm, if you're a leader of a corporation, you're going to be making probably more than that, but I don't know all the salaries that accountants are going to make in, say, IBM or GE, but I have a feel for what they're making in the Big Four. This also gives you an idea why there's a shortage of accounting professors, because let's say you've been in public accounting for 3 or 4 years. To go back and get your PhD, even if you're getting paid like $30,000 a year or something while you're in the PhD program, you're giving up maybe close to $100,000 salary. Okay, but you've got to ask yourself at some point, what do you enjoy doing? And if you really think you might want to do teaching and research, you should give the academic career a shot. These are just our stats. I think these will be available to you online, so I won't go over these. It just confirms what's on the card where most of our students get placed. The point I want to drive home here is the number of people that go to Big Four. That's an indication of the quality. Most schools around the country would die for stats like this. And so the people that are going out in public accounting typically are close to 150 hours. So they're able to get the 150 hours while they're here. And then you have other students come into our master's program. So most students will either go out and work after the 4 years, about half will go out after work for 4 years, and then the other half will go into master's programs. But some will go into law school and so on. But they're all very successful. This is our curriculum. These first 2 courses deal with financial accounting. So this would be what firms would issue the types of financial statements they would issue if they want to get a loan or issue stock. The strategic cost management decision processes, that's more on the internal workings of a firm, how you would forecast information. I already talked about what audit is, and then tax is what goes on someone's tax return. So most of you had jobs, right? You've had jobs at one point or another. You get a W-2. So that's how much income you made. So you probably don't think about, well, if I had to report income to a bank, that it would be any different. But there are different goals with the IRS than what the goals of, say, a bank would be when they're looking at financial statement information, so the guidelines are different. Okay, so that's why we have courses in measurement disclosure, that's financial reporting, and then tax is maybe what you're used to, like what would be on a tax return. Now, just real fast to illustrate what the courses are trying to accomplish, and it ties back to this notion of income. You know, if everything was like say your income, like interest on a bank from a bank account or income from a job, there wouldn't be much of a role for accountants. It's not that difficult. But if we look at an iPhone and think about what AT&T's challenges are, it's got to track the inventory of iPhones that it has. Once it sells an iPhone, it's got to track all your usage and make forecasts about what that usage is going to be. Going back to the income issue, now we're in a situation where it's not so easy. They're selling two products. They're selling the service and they're selling the phone. Okay, when should they recognize income under that situation? And what expenses would tie to that? So what we do in accounting is start thinking about more complex transactions and give you the foundation for what you would need to think about as you get into like transactions we haven't even thought of. So think about the iPhone. I mean, no one thought of this type of machine or computer 15 years ago. Maybe you saw it on cartoons or you saw it in fantasy films, but no one really thought of needing this type of instrument. Okay, so I don't know what we'll have 15 years from now, but what we try to teach you in accounting is to deal with whatever those new transactions, what those new instruments are. So that's kind of the financial reporting side, but then there's also the tax issues. Well, where have they located the factories? Are they paying like a valuation tax in those states? And how much are they doing internationally? So there's tax rules regarding international issues and where the factories are located, how the merchandise is shipped, how the income is taxed. So all of that has to be considered in the accounting curriculum. Okay, and then over time you'll specialize. You'll specialize in financial reporting, you'll specialize in tax, you'll specialize in consulting. But what we try to do is give you the foundation here at the undergraduate level. Okay, the 150-hour requirement. Most states will require 150 hours of college credit to either sit for the exam or to be licensed. So license means that you can sign an audit opinion or sign tax returns in a state. Now, the Indy accountancy degree requires 126 hours, and the accounting requirements are enough to satisfy Illinois' accounting requirements. So all you need to do is get up to 150 hours to sit for the CPA exam in Illinois. Okay? But there are other states that require a lot more accounting. So then it's more of an issue of how do you get those additional accounting classes. Again, we're aiming more at the foundation accounting at the undergraduate program, not every type of accounting class that you might need to sit for the accounting exam or the CPA exam. We have an advisor. He's the assistant chairman, Jamie O'Brien. So I've provided his email, but you can also call us in the office and make an appointment with him too. But he helps you think about what courses might I need in order to sit for the exam in Texas or Florida or whatever. Now, how do you get these extra 24 hours? A lot of you have AP credit that when you look at your AP credit, you can take normal loads while you're here and get close to the 150 hours just through normal loads. But you could also take summer school, you can take overloads. There are online courses, especially if you need like kind of specialized courses. So there's a lot of ways to get up to the 150. We also offer an MSA program or MSA degree, We started this program back in the late 90s to meet the needs of our undergrads because we knew that the 150-hour requirement was coming on in a lot of states. And now over time, more and more students are getting the AP credit. But we originally started the program to meet the needs of the undergraduate programs. Now, we have spring starts and fall starts. Some of you may have enough hours where you could actually graduate in December. Then you could start in January. Others can go ahead and start in September. This program gets you the accounting hours. It also gets you a year older, so you're that much more mature when you go to work. And you're also able to take MBA courses. So you can take more MBA courses in finance or communications or whatever that you want to take. So we see a big difference in the skill level of people that have gone from undergraduate degree here to the master's program. But like I said, and you can see it in our stats, that a lot of people go out to work with just 4 years, and that's because they are able to get the 150 hours in other ways. And I mentioned with the MSA degree, sometimes it's faster advancement, and sometimes it allows you to reduce the CPA experience requirements if you have a master's degree as opposed to just having the hours. The other thing I forgot, it gives you one more season of football. Okay, so that's all I have. I talked longer than I was supposed to. I apologize, but I'll still take some questions if you have some questions. Yeah.
Is there any advantage to having a master's degree in accounting versus getting your degree in 4 years, getting your 150 hours in 4 years?
From a starting salary standpoint, there's not going to be much difference. So like when the firm hires you, they're going to say, are you CPA ready? So if you're close to the 150 hours, they might pay a little bit more with a master's, but the salary is going to be closer. So it kind of depends on you, whether you feel comfortable enough going out after the 4 years and how long you think you're going to stay in public accounting. So I think it's more of a personal question. We have some people that are close to the 150 hours but get the master's anyway, and then others will go out after the 150, and we see both people succeed. I can tell you that people that are in the master's program understand how things fit together a little bit better, or probably a lot better, and then also can do research in tax and research in financial accounting better than an undergraduate will be able to do. But initially, how do I want to say this? The firm's not going to pay a big premium for the master's degree, but I think people with the master's will end up moving a little bit more quickly. In tax, it's kind of difficult to succeed in the tax department without a master's degree. But we're seeing a lot of people go out with the 150 at the undergraduate level if they can. Anything else? Okay, great.